Jennifer, and today's DIY is going to be some ways to revamp and upcycle your old shirts. And sorry about my appearance, I'm looking very ratchet right now. I'll show you what I'm wearing. Cupcake t-shirt and some ratchet blue shorts, so yeah. As always, if you try any of these out, don't forget to send me a picture to my Twitter or Instagram, and my neighbors are watching, so let's get started. So obviously you're going to be needing some shirts, and mine are just some old t-shirts that I don't wear anymore or I want to revamp to look better. So the first shirt is the easiest one, and it's just this one with a little tie on the end. And first I started out with a a graphic t-shirt, and I just cut off the sleeves, and then after that I went ahead and cut off the collar because I wanted it to look more like a tank top. What just happened to my voice there? It went really high. After that, I just stretched out the edges so that it looked prettier and the raw edges wouldn't show as much. And I realize you can't see half of the shot here, but basically I just drew a line across the width of the shirt where I wanted to cut. And then I also drew a line down the middle and two diagonal lines meeting in the middle. And please learn from my mistake, which is that I drew my little diagonal lines way too narrowly. So if you want it to look a bit better than mine, definitely draw your diagonal lines wider so that it doesn't look as tiny as mine turned out. So basically I'm just cutting out where I drew my line and then cutting down the middle. And then after that I realized that I didn't need the back tie, so I also just cut that off. And lastly, I just tied together those two strings and double knotted it. And then after that, you are basically done. And this next shirt has a really cool braided neckline design, and oh, that's me trying to be fab, but it's a braided neckline that you can add to any shirt to give a little spice. So the first thing that I did was cut off the collar because for my particular shirt I didn't like that it had a higher neckline, so that's why I cut it off. But if you like your collar, then you can keep it, but it's totally optional. So now I'm taking my chalk and just drawing about 1-inch lines and placing my finger in between each line to measure out the distance. And you don't have to draw out each marking, I just did this to show you guys what I'm doing. But basically I'm using my scissors to cut out each line and eyeballing the rest of them. So I'm basically making a hole and then putting my scissors through and just cutting a line, and then I'm going to repeat this step for the whole collar. And now I am done my collar, and then I'm going to start weaving. So I'm taking the second strand and tucking that underneath the first strand, and then holding that second strand and taking the third strand and tucking it underneath the second strand. So now you should have a little loop, and then take your next strand and loop it through that little loop and then pull it through. So now you're going to take your next strand and just pull it through that loop, and you're going to repeat this process, and it's sort of like a chain, and this is going to create your braid effect across the whole collar. Once you reach the last strand, don't loop it. You're just going to cut it in half and then loop one strand through that last loop and then tie it together. And I double knotted mine just to be extra secure, and you can also fabric glue this or something to make it more secure. Now I'm just loosening it up and then I'm making a second row of braids. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I decided to because I thought it'd look a lot better. And now I'm just repeating that weaving process across the whole collar, and you should know the drill by now. So after I finish that second row, I am all done, and this actually looks pretty hard, but it's surprisingly easy. So for this next shirt, I have these little shoulder ties and cutouts on the front. So I started out with a long sleeve shirt because of the ties on the shoulders. So first I just marked where I wanted my sleeves to end, and they ended up being kind of long, so later on I just cut them shorter. But I also drew these lines for the ties on the shoulders, and I'm just cutting it out. And I'm also cutting along the side of the sleeve until the sleeve ends, and doing the same to both of the sleeves so that you have two halves that you can open up. And now obviously just tie those two strings together and in a double knot so that it stays put. And now that I'm done with my shoulders, I'm going to start cutting the cutouts on the front, and I'm starting in the middle. I'm just cutting 10 slits down the middle, and after this I realized it was kind of hard to do it like this, so I folded it down the middle and cut it like that instead because it was a lot easier. Then I just stretched out those cuts so that it looked a bit more distressed and whatnot, and then I cut 3 slits on each side of the middle little bundle of cuts. You can do anything you want. This is what I did to make a bit of what am I saying? Okay, anyways, I'm making these cuts on the collar, and I'm doing this to both sides. I didn't really count how many I did. I basically just eyeballed it. So this is how it turned out in the end, and I think it looks really unique and different. So this next shirt is definitely the most out there, and in the front it looks like a regular shirt, but in the back it's like ba-bam! So let's get started. First of all, you'll need a shirt that's kind of longer because you're going to be cutting off the bottom. So first I'm going to flip it over and cut off the hem at the bottom of the shirt. And after I'm done that, I'm going to cut out 2 strips of fabric from the bottom, and these strips should be about an inch or 2 to 3 centimeters wide. Now I'm just going to cut all of them in half so that I have 4 strings in the end, and then taking a circular object and placing that in the middle, and I'm using that as a guide for where my oval is going to be, and then I just cut that out using my scissors. Now take your first strip of fabric and place that at the top of the oval, and then take your second one and place it right beside the first one. The third one goes in the top left corner, and the fourth one goes in the top right corner. Now you're just gonna take your hot glue gun and glue them down in place, and if you don't have hot glue, you can use fabric glue or even sew it if you want. After that's done, we're going to start the weaving process, and it's better if you just watch because it's harder to explain. But basically, I crossed the right strand over the left, and then took my left corner strand and crossed it over that right strand. And then I twisted the corner strand under the right strand so that it looks like this. And then I did the same to the other side. Basically, I crossed the right corner strand over the left strand and tucked it underneath. So now just straighten it out, and then you're going to cross the left strand over the right strand so that it looks like this, and then just cut off any excess fabric and glue them all in place. And that was the completed last shirt, and I think this one looks really cool and different. So if you guys would like a part 2 to this video, definitely let me know by giving this video a thumbs up or commenting down below, and I will definitely do that.
So that is it for today's DIY. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And that's about it. I will see you guys next time. Bye!